Welcome back. Today I'm going to be going over this SAT right angle question. And of course, thanks to Aniko.ai for providing this specific question in their free resources tab. But before I move on to the explanation, please give this a try yourself. Okay, so here we have two acute angles, angle A and angle B, where sine of 2A equals cos of B. The measures of both angle A and angle B are 5x plus 10 and 20x plus 5. Which of these answer choices is the value of x? So right away, right, I'm noticing one key thing, right, which is this equation. And we also know that the measures of angle A and B are given here. So we have those two values. And because we are given the values of angle A and angle B, or the measures of them in terms of x, what you should do is plug them into the equation, right? So in this case, we have sine of 2a, and 2 times a in this case would be 10x plus 20, right? This is a and this is b. And that equals cos of 20x plus 5. So now we have this equation here. What else do we know? We know that angle A and angle B, right? Well, they have to be part of a triangle, right? So let's say just for 1 second, right? And this might not necessarily be true, but let's just say that this was, right? Let's say that these angles were part of a right triangle. And let's call 10x plus 20 angle x, or actually angle A. Well, yeah, let's use angle D, and this one let's use angle R. So we have D and R. We know that the measure of angle D is 10x plus 20. This is 20x plus 5. Well, why am I even doing this in the first place? Well, if we have sine of angle D, right? So if we had sine of 10x plus 20, which is angle D, what does that equal to? If you think back to SOHCAHTOA, right, we know that, well, actually, let me first name these sides, A, B, and C. We know that a sine of an angle is equal to the opposite over the hypotenuse. So that's equal to A over C. And what else do we know? Well, how do we think about cos of R? Well, cos of angle R, which is 20x plus 5. Remember, again, SOHCAHTOA, cos is adjacent over hypotenuse. So that's A over C. Well, what you'll realize is these two are equal to each other, right? Therefore, sine of 10x plus 20 does in fact equal cos of 20x plus 5. You'll realize this is the same exact equation as this, right? You might be wondering, well, what did you just do? You just proved that the equation in fact is equal, right? Which is true. But more specifically, I proved that this equation is true through using a right triangle, right? Remember, when I first made this right triangle, I came in with the assumption that it might not necessarily be a right triangle, right? These angles might not actually be a part of a right triangle. But if we use SOHCAHTOA, right, and we set that and we figured out that both of these are equal to A over C, well then you realize that a right triangle is actually possible to create, right? With these angles here, because we proved that this equation was true. So what that tells us is we know for a fact that this is a right triangle, right? And that everything works out. So therefore, well, you know that in a right triangle, this is 90 degrees, right? Remember that the sum of all angles in a triangle add up to 180. So that means that 90 degrees plus angle D plus angle R equals 180. Therefore, D plus R equals 90. Well, guess what? We know what D and R are, right? 10x plus 20 and 20x plus 5. So if we add those together, you get 10x plus 20 plus 20x plus 5 equals 90. And now you can actually, well, solve for x, and this will give you a right answer, right? So you have 30x equals, or 30x plus 25 equals 90. And then you get x equals 65 over 30. Simplify that, you get 13 over 6. And that matches with our answer choice D here. So the key thing to realize in this problem is that, well, after you plug in the measures of angle A and B into this equation here, right, you can assume, right, you can draw a right triangle, right? Again, it might not be a right triangle, but you can draw it out and test if the equation actually holds true, right? What I mean by that is, what would sine of 10x plus 20 actually look like on this right triangle? Well, if you use SOHCAHTOA, it would be A over C, right? Likewise, do the same thing for cos, right? That would also be A over C. And now that you've proven that this equation still holds true, given that it's a right triangle, well, now you can actually go ahead and find the value of x uh, using some angle logic, right? Just using the fact that all of them add up to 180. So that's why in this video I named this that just realized it's a right triangle, right? Because it is, right? And that makes it much more easier. So once again, I hope this made sense. If it didn't, right, just please leave any questions you have down in the comments. But thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.